Welcome to week 2 of HIT 500 Health Statistics. Today, we, of course, are going to have our math trivia because, hello, how could we not, right? We're going to go over the knowledge check and last week's highly missed questions. And you guys will be very impressed with yourselves, I must say myself. We have one chapter, chapter 3, and we're talking about patient census. So this week is where we really get into the formulas, where we start computing different type of mathematical equations. And it's a lot of word problems, right? So then we have a wrap up, okay? And then after the wrap up, for anybody who wants to stick around just to make sure they're on the right path, maybe you don't feel as strong with the math equations, don't stress, I got you. I have pulled a couple of the apply and reflection questions and I have computed them so that we can work them through. Now that's only for individuals who are like, I just want to see if I'm on the right path. After the wrap up is where those who are comfortable are free. So let's not forget to work on our knowledge checks though, okay? I know there is a lot of math. I know that, but work on them and really try to get the highest score. I will be reaching out to those that have not done them or have scored less than 80%. So I'm just giving you guys that heads up. By Thursday, you'll probably get an email or a Moodle message from me. And it's just, hey, try again, or don't forget to get them done. All right. For those who are watching the playback, this is the discussion forum question that I have. We're talking about numbers. For this week, I would like you to find the #1 box office movie that was playing the year you were born. I'll start with mine. It was Grease, and it opened up with $181,813,770. Now, here's the thing. Do not place your year, but find the movie and let's talk about what movies were playing the year we were born. Okay, for our math trivia, what number doesn't have its own Roman numeral? The answer is 0. And how many times has this happened to anyone? That awkward moment when you're finishing a math problem and your answer isn't even one of the choices. I'll raise my hand and I like math, but sometimes it happens. All right. For our highly missed questions, like I said, you guys did really well. There were only 3 questions that were highly missed, and that was from your week 1 quiz as well as your knowledge checks. So for the first question, a hypothesis test is an example of a inferential statistics. A hypothesis test is an example of inferential statistics. The next one that I came across, which of the following is not a type of procedural code? CPT, HCPCS, ICD-10 PCS, or DRG? The correct answer was DRG. All right, that was it from the quiz. And then from your knowledge checks, which of the following is the correct claim form for physician claims? CMS 1450, remittance advice, MSDRG, or CMS 1500. Keep in mind the key word is physicians, not patients. So physicians is 1500. Great job, everybody. That's all I've got. Now, what you'll notice is, granted, there's only 3 of these questions, but I have sprinkled them throughout the live session. So you will have the opportunity to answer them again, okay? But we're talking about patients in their beds. What is census? Okay, now, health statistics is extremely important because We are trying to measure the overall nation's health, okay? It provides an accurate, it's detailed, up-to-date statistics. It covers people and businesses, and it's honestly relating to the health in America. Told you right off the bat. See if you remember. A hypothesis test is an example of inferential statistics. Which of the following is not a type of procedural code? Not CPT, HCPCS, ICD-10 PCS, or DRG. Again, which of these is not a type of procedural code? A, CPT, B, HCPCS, C, ICD-10 PCS, or D, DRG. Yes, that is correct. DRG. Good job. Great job. All right, so our learning objectives for this week, okay? We know we're talking about patient census, but there are a lot of calculations that go into that. We're looking at inpatient admissions. We're looking at the inpatient census. We are going to be talking about the complete master census, daily inpatient census, in-service days, total inpatient service days, and admission and discharges. Now, all of these have calculations that we're going to go over in this live session. We also have to differentiate between an interhospital or interfacility transfer and a interhospital transfer. So you have an inter and an intra. We also have to calculate daily census and inpatient service days, and finishing up looking at the census and inpatient days with newborns and transfers, because those are calculated separately. Okay, so starting right off the bat, we're looking at inpatient census. Daily inpatient census is the number of inpatients present at the census taking time each day, plus any additional who were both admitted after the previous census was taken. So let's say census was taken and someone else comes in, well, they're going to be added to that next one before the next census is taken. So they're like in that period, they come in, even though that one was taken, they're going to be in the current census, okay? We commonly call it ADTs, admissions, discharge, and transfers. You may see that again. ADT is admission, discharge, and transfers. You see the chart on the slide, it's telling you that information is usually linked to other computer programs within the facility. It's connected. And when we talk about a transfer, we're looking at hospital settings that are looking at that intra-hospital transfer where patients are moved from one PCU to another within that same facility. Or to make it even more realistic, in the operating room, let's say they're coming down from a regular med-surg patient bed, they come into the operating room and unfortunately something happens, and so they're being transferred not back to the regular med-surg room, but maybe ICU, okay? Or vice versa. That's an intra-hospital. Now, we look at daily inpatient census, okay? It reflects the total number of patients treated during the 24-hour period. The daily inpatient census is a statistic, okay? It's going to measure the number of patients admitted to the hospital or the unit at any time during a given day. For example, okay, in an ICU, a patient could be admitted at 8 a.m. They can consume a high volume of services and the staff time before, unfortunately, they're passing away, right? When we look at the inpatient service day, and you will see questions on these, okay? Here, as you see, we're talking about a unit of measure that reflects the service period by one patient during a 24-hour period. There are a number of important issues concerning inpatient service days. And some of the things we look at is 1 unit of 1 service day is not usually divided or reported as a fraction. So keep that in mind. We're not going to make a fraction out of that one. The day of admission is counted as an inpatient service day, but not the day of discharge. I will repeat that. The day of admission is counted as an inpatient service day, but not the day of admission. I have seen that as a true and false question. No patient admitted to any patient unit can have a 0 service day stay. And then the third one is an inpatient service day may also be referred to as patient day, inpatient day, bed occupancy day, or even a census day. So those are other terms that are synonymous with an inpatient service day. Now, in here is an example straight from the chapter 3.3. The term total inpatient service days refers to the sum of all inpatient service days for each day of the days during a specific period of time. For example, if a patient service day was for June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and you have 100, 105, and 101, you're going to just add those numbers together to get the inpatient service days for that period of time. Okay, so far, not too crazy, right? Then we start calculating the inpatient service days. This includes patients admitted and discharged on the same day. Day of admission is counted as an inpatient service day, but day of discharge is not. Here's that term again, okay? Day of admission is counted as an inpatient service day, but day of discharge is not. The usual reporting period begins at 12:01 a.m. and ends at 12 a.m. midnight. That's just the normal. One patient day must be counted for each inpatient admitted and discharged on the same day between 2 successful census taking hours. Now, we look at our transfers, okay? Transfers to intra-facility, transfers in and out of a specific medical care unit may or may not be equal. I have seen that question before. Every patient transferred into a unit on any given day has to have been transferred out of another unit. Things to remember. It may involve transfer of a patient within the same facility. Maybe they're going to get a diagnostic procedure done or labs, or transfer to another facility with one or more advanced care. So let's say they're at a unit where they have decreased in their prognosis and they need to go to a facility that has just a little bit more care to give them. So they'll grab them and take them there. Transfers in and out of the hospital are called interhospital or interfacility transfers. Transfers in and out of a hospital, that's including discharges and admissions. Newborns are considered separately for all computations based on census data. That's going to be important because as we go through this particular course, you'll see that we're going to be calculating infants and bassinets differently or separately. They'll be done kind of the same way, but they are separate. Okay, they're a separate entity within the hospital. Patients admitted and discharged on the same day. So we keep talking about that, right? When a patient is admitted into inpatient hospital care for a minimum of 8 hours, but less than 24, we usually call that 11:59, where they have to be discharged. On the same calendar day, the physician shall report the observation of inpatient care services, including admission and discharge service same day. So you look at in and outs, admissions, discharges, they're counted as inpatient service days, but we do not add them into our inpatient census because they're not going to be there for that entire time period. All right, very first formula that we're coming up to. The average daily inpatient census is the average or mean number of inpatient present in the hospital each day for a given period of time. Example that we have in front of us. If a hospital had 6,653 inpatient service days for adults and children, and 155 inpatient service days for newborns for the month of May, what was the average daily inpatient census in May? Again, we're rounding to the nearest whole number. As mentioned earlier, adults and children are calculated separately from newborns unless otherwise directed by the hospital's administration. So you see right in front of us how we came up with the 600 and 653 divided by 31 days in May, giving us 214.61. We round that to 215 patients. Okay. Remember, infants and newborns are done separately. So here, kind of doing the same thing, except we're taking the total number of patients admitted and born, because these are infants and newborns, during the month of the year. The patient's remaining census is going to be within the month or year that it began. And from this sum, the number of discharges, including deaths, during the month of the year is then subtracted. Now, one thing that you'll notice throughout this course is that there's going to be a lot of formulas. And so come midterm, you're going to get all the formulas printed out that you will be able to utilize for your midterm exam, okay? So I will have that on the announcements. I try to get that to you week 4, right? Because week 5 is just our review. So week 4, you will have every formula up until our midterm. And then of course, come finals, you will have every formula from every chapter that had a formula that you can utilize to just help you, okay? It's like a guide, an extra resource. Now, I will try to make sure to timestamp this particular portion so you can use it as a quick reference just for the formula review. So really quick recap, okay? These are coming from your knowledge checks from week 2. Now, this particular question, the time for taking the inpatient census must always be, and I'm going to give it to you because it's consistent. I know throughout the chapter, it lets you know that the normal time is going to be between 12:01 to 12 a.m., right? 12:01 p.m. to 12 a.m. The question that they're looking for though is the time to take the inpatient census has to be consistent. I have seen this question on midterms, on finals, on knowledge checks. So just keep in mind that it is consistent. Why? Because that's the normal time frame. But there are other facilities that do not operate 24 hours a day. So their census time taking is going to be slightly different. The key is that it has to be consistent every day for that particular facility. So if they're going to do it at 3 p.m., then it needs to be done 3 p.m., 3 p.m., 3 p.m. If they're the type of facility that does it 8 a.m. in the morning, it has to be done 8 a.m. every day. If they are a 24-hour hospital, then they're going to probably fall into that realm of 12:01 to 12 a.m. Okay. And then the next question, of course, this is from this week's knowledge checks. Metro Hospital has a 30-bassinet nursery. They have a total of 729 newborn service days for the month of May. What is the average daily census for May? Of course, we're rounding to the nearest whole number. They give you a couple of options, 22, 23, 21, and 24. So in math statistics, we do these a little bit differently, okay? I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how we get to the answer before I provide it. Now remember, and I have a little trick that we're going to go over for those of you who are able to stay for the apply and reflection. Remember that the month of May has 31 days, okay? So the very first thing, and if you have your calculator, pull it out. You're going to divide the newborn service days, okay, which is 729 newborn service days, divided by 31 days of May. That's going to give you 23.516. Since the direction states to round to the nearest whole number, you look at the number after the decimal, which we know is 5. That 5 lets us know to round up, giving us the answer of 24. Okay, so keep in mind the correct answer is 24. Now, for math statistics, a lot of this is apply and reflection once we get through our live session. Why do I say that? Well, we're already at the wrap up. Remember that the math trivia was what number doesn't have its own Roman numeral? That was 0. And without mathematics, this is something else. There is nothing you can do. Everything around you is math, okay? So just keep that in mind. We only had 3 missed questions between the knowledge check and the quizzes. For this week's feedback, which is your quiz, there are 21 minutes to complete the 20 questions, all right? Now, again, for those of you who are good to go with the apply and reflection, thank you for attending tonight's live session. For everyone who is ready for the apply and reflection, let's get into it. Okay, for this week's apply and reflection, a lot of health statistics, I know I sound like a broken record, but a lot of health statistics is really working through the questions. So you will notice that one of the tricks that I do is I have the days of each month kind of on the side. I just write it, okay? And this is going to be important as you go through the course, because a lot of times they'll ask you to calculate for 6 months, but let's say it's a leap year, right? That's going to change your numbers just slightly. Other things that I do is I'll go through and highlight information that is kind of like important, okay? Now, for your apply and reflection, there are 3 sections. And so I pulled each section and grabbed a couple questions for you, and we're going to work through them tonight. And if you do have any questions, I have the chat up so I can go and look, okay? Especially if I'm going too fast. All right, so in 2000, we'll say 23, the hospital had 175, I have highlighted, beds for adults and children from January 1st through June 30th. On July 1st, the hospital increased its beds to 250, and the number remained 250 through December 31st. During the first 6 months, there were 30,675 patient days of service that were provided to the hospital's adults and children. During the past 6 months, 36,982 days of service were provided. Answer the following questions, and here is the most important part. Round the answers to the whole numbers. This is a non-leap year. Now, I stress this because there are going to be questions that they'll say round to the nearest 10th, round to the nearest 100th, round to the nearest thousands. And even if you have the correct answer and the answer is like 26, if you don't put 26.000, it will mark it incorrectly. And that's just because they're looking at attention to detail, because some facilities, for whatever reason, prefer their calculations to not just be to the whole numbers. They may require it to be to that 10th, to the 100th, to the 1000th, okay? But for this one, it's the whole number. Now, what was the average daily inpatient census for the first 6 months? For this very first question, the first 6 months has 181 days. And so that's where you see my little notes to the side, okay? First 6 months has 181 days. You take 181 days and divide it by 30,875, okay? Make sure I get that, 30,875. You will be given the number, or your calculation should show you 170.58, or decimal place 58. The direction says to round to the nearest whole number. I am one of those trust but verify. So I need someone to verify my calculations, okay? Because to err is human. So I need someone to have, just to make sure that I'm calculating correctly, have 181 days divided by the 30,875 and tell me what you get. So it'll be 30,875 divided by 181. I always say it backwards, but yeah, 30,875 divided by 181. And I'm going to try to pull up my calculator too, just as an extra. Perfect, thank you. 170.580, rounding to the nearest whole number, gives us 171. Perfect. All right. For the second question, we look at how many days are in the month of July, which is 31. So even if we know this, most of us already know it, but it's good to just have it so you don't have to think real quick, like, all right, January 31, so just having it at a glance really does help you as you calculate these particular equations. So we are going to look at the month of July, which is 31. Now we're going to take 1,705, because that's the days of service, right? 1,705 is the days of service, and divide that by 31. So again, 1,705, and I did not put my calculator up. I'll try to get that up next. I got 55. While we're doing that, let me see if I can get my calculator up now. Might not let me. 1,705 divided by 31. See if I can get it. It might not let me do both. It's only let me do the one. I got 55. Perfect. So the answer, of course, is 55. And it won't let me do both, so I'm just going to have to do the one, guys. All right. So that's how the very first section, or you have multiple choice questions, and then you have this particular scenario and how that group is going to go. But like I said, there's three kind of parts. The next part, I grabbed a question from, and you can kind of see, I keep up my little notes to the side. It just helps me. Here, we're using the information in this particular chart to answer the following questions, okay? The very first question that I grabbed was calculate the average daily inpatient census for adults and children. Round your answer again to the whole number. For this one, a little bit easier, okay? When calculating the average inpatient census for the month, you need to know how many days are in each month again, right? So we're looking at this particular time in July 31. Again, we take 3,198 divided by 31. I got 103.16.1290. Now, the thing is, we're rounding to, again, the nearest whole number. So once we take the 3,198 divided by 31, that gives us 103.16, giving us the answer of 103. Now, keep in mind, these are actual apply and reflection questions that you have this evening, okay, or this week, all right? But we're not done. There are a couple that came underneath this one, and I grabbed another one because I felt it was really important to cover. Is everyone good to go for the next one? You can give me a thumbs up, or just want to make sure I'm not going too fast. Okay, perfect, perfect, okay. So the next one that I wanted to cover was a little bit different. I really felt like it was important because it's breaking it down a little bit differently. What will the census for adults and children be at 11:59 p.m. on July 31st? Round your answers to a whole number. Now, I grabbed this one because this isn't one that was really covered in detail in the chapter, and you have a couple different steps that you have to go through first. Okay, we're going to start with looking at the numbers. We're going to take 92, which is the beginning of census of July 1st, plus 301, which is our admissions. We're subtracting discharges and deaths, because remember, those do not count. And then we add what's left to 3,198. Make sure to check my work. Okay, so 92 plus 301 minus 286 plus 3198. I always verify, even though I've done this, I got 3,305. And then when you get that information, then you divide by the month that has, so July has 31 days. So 3,305 divided by 31. Okay. Giving you 106.6129. Again, the key here is rounding your answers to whole numbers. So for this particular answer, we're looking at 107. Okay, so that's the first kind of two sections. The last section, and mind you, I know that they may not show up this way, but these are the questions. It's a little bit different. Now, for these questions, we are looking at the information again that's being provided and paying close attention to rounding 3 digits, keyword, after the decimal. All right, so again, 3 digits after the decimal for this first example. Again, I keep my little on the side for myself. We're going to take a look at the inpatient service days and add them together, okay? Now, using the information above, determine the average daily inpatient census for the week of April 6th through April 12th. We should get 196, okay? Why? Well, it's almost like when you have a test. Here, we're just adding all the numbers on the side, just add them up, okay? And once you've added them up, you're going to divide by the number of days that we're looking at. So in this particular instance, you have 196 divided by 7, which should give you 28. Now, remember that we're rounding 3 digits after the decimal point, and that's exactly like that answer or that example I gave you earlier, 28.000. For these particular questions, you're going to be typing the answer in. So making sure you put that 28 decimal place 000 so that you can get the full credit, okay? For the second question, we look at what the question is actually saying. We know that the University Hospital is a 765 bed facility with 250,415 inpatient service days for the past year. But we want to know the average of the past year, okay? We're going to assume that, of course, again, this is not a leap year. So there are 365 days in a year. And what we're going to do is grab your calculators, 250,415, and divide that by 365. Okay, we're trying to get the daily census for the entire year. So I got 686 decimal place 06849, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let me see what everyone else is getting. You're taking 250,415 and dividing that by 365. Yes, okay, on the same page. But remember, for this one, we only have to round to the whole number. So I really wanted to make sure I got kind of examples of each one, where here we're looking at 3 decimal places. Here we're looking at the whole number. And this is going to be kind of tricky because you're going to get into your groove. You're going to be doing your calculations. But before you go on to the next question, just go back to that last part and, okay, do I need 3 decimal places? Am I doing 1 decimal place? It's a whole number, just to make sure that you are, calculating per the instructions. And this is because, again, each facility does things slightly different. Now, within different systems, they may do it the same, but like, let's say in SoCal, we may have Sharp that does it one way, Kaiser that does it another way, Scripps that does it another way when it comes to their census numbers and how they compute it. What questions do you guys have for me? Any questions? New questions? No questions. How are you guys liking the course so far? You can do a thumbs up. I know I'm putting you guys on the spot on this Tuesday. Well, good. Okay, awesome. Now, if there's anything that you're like, I would like to see this, or like even when you guys are going through your applying reflections and your knowledge checks today or this week, and there's something that you're like, oh, I got it, but I just want a little bit more, send it to me and then I can add it so that we can go over it next week and kind of break it down. Okay. But I am going to try to do my best, just like this is how this class is set up. Okay. So we'll do our missed questions in the beginning. We'll go over the live session. Now, moving forward, there are a lot of examples in the chapters that I pulled and grabbed. And then, of course, again, if you are golden after the wrap up, you're golden. And then we go into the apply and reflection afterwards. This is the end of week 2. Yeah, I'm going to actually timestamp it. So for those of you, especially that you're here, I'm going to timestamp the apply and reflection so that you can go straight to that and not have to kind of guess like, oh, where is it? As well as the formulas, because I want you guys to be able to have the formulas for yourselves as well as you get ready to take that weekly quiz, especially come the midterm. So you guys will be golden. But on that note, thank y'all so much for being here. It's Tuesday, it's week 2. You guys have a wonderful evening. Have a great week. Be safe this weekend. And I will see everyone who can attend next week's live session. Good night, everybody.